Parlays, player props, and predictions are back for week 11 in the NFL today. I'll talk about my 4 favorite player props, including a ladder play. So get out your ladders. We got a Moneyline Parlay as well. Let's talk about last week's video. The props went 2-2, but the Moneyline Parlay clutches up plus 727. We like that. Let's try to run it back this week. If you are new, my name's Austin from Calling Our Shot. We do these videos every week, so definitely hit that subscribe button down below. If you are new, we do our daily best bets in the NBA, and we have tons of other content you don't want to miss out on. Let's keep it going, though, this week. If you want to check out my favorite spread picks for Sunday, check out our Week 11 Best Bets video. The thumbnail looks exactly like this one. It will be linked at the end of the video, in the description, and the pinned comment section down below. Let's keep rolling. We're 2-0 so far this week, thanks to Thursday Night Football. Let's keep that momentum. Let's start with my first player prop this week. Paris Campbell of the Indianapolis Colts taking his over 38.5 receiving yards minus 115 on BetMGM. Now, I will not be laddering this one, but I wouldn't mind a ladder on Mr. Paris Campbell, as I'd probably play this up to 45.5 because I think Paris either crushes this line or doesn't even sniff it. But hopefully he crushes it, as Paris Campbell and the Colts back at home taking on the Eagles. And before I even dive into analysis, just looking at this game, the Eagles 7-point favorites coming off a loss. We could see them come up big here, and maybe we see the Colts trailing and having to throw a lot more than they anticipated, or we see a close game. And either way, it's fine for me, as Paris Campbell, I think, can get it done in either route. Now, let's talk about Matt Ryan, who was thrown back under center thanks to Jeff Saturday, who's the new head coach, interim head coach, at least, for the Indianapolis Colts. In the last 3 games in which Matt Ryan has started, Paris Campbell has feasted. Look at these lines. 7 receptions on 11 targets for 57 receiving yards. 10 receptions, 12 targets, 70 receiving yards. And then another 7 receptions, 9 targets, and 76 receiving yards. And he's playing well over 80% of the snaps. Probably about 5 or 6 weeks ago, we saw that Frank Reich, that point, the Colts head coach, saying, Paris Campbell's looking like one of the best receivers in camp. And he wasn't lying, as they've been playing him a lot. And this Eagles secondary is daunting. They have Darius Slay. They have James Bradbury. But those guys are more of the guys that, and including their safeties as well. This is a team that doesn't like to get beat deep. Rarely do they get beat deep. And so it's going to be tough for guys like Alec Pierce, who have a high average depth of target. A guy like Michael Pittman Jr. is likely going to get Darius Slay on him a good amount, or they're going to pay a lot of attention to him. But here we go. We got the Eagles, the secondary, despite being so good, they still allowed 15 wide receivers to hit 40 or more receiving yards, which is what we need out of Paris Campbell today. And since the Colts no longer have Nyheim Hines, he's now a Buffalo Bill, we've seen a lot of these short throws go to a guy like Paris Campbell. His average depth of target, just 5.1 yards. He's only seeing 27.7 air yards per game. Look, well, sure, we'd like if he gets targeted deeper down the field, but his primary thing and his skill set is yards after the catch. So he's capable of taking a 5-yard pass and going for 35 yards. He's certainly capable of doing that. And I really like Paris Campbell, a very talented player, finally healthy for the first time basically in his whole career. I like him. I think they're going to throw a lot of dink and dunks to him. I think that's what's going to be open against the very talented Eagles secondary. Paris Campbell, our first play of the day, taking us over in receiving yards. You can play that up a pretty good high amount. Now let's move on to my next play, another over in receiving yards. This time we're going to Sunday Night Football as the Chiefs take on the Chargers. I'm taking Jerick McKinnon, their running back, over 25.5 receiving yards. This is probably playable up to 29.5. Now, McKinnon quietly becoming a staple of this Chiefs offense. I mean, maybe this is a trap, but over the last 4 games, he's at 29, 36, 40, and 56 receiving yards, quietly increasing that number each and every week, and he's seen 8 targets the last 2 weeks. He's basically jumped over Clyde Edwards-Helaire, their first-round pick from 2 years ago, jumped over him on the depth chart, and it's just him and Pacheco. You saw only Clyde Edwards-Helaire play 4 snaps last week. Jerick McKinnon played 24, Pacheco played 35, but still, McKinnon's going to be out there for all their passing down, and now they got McCole Hardman, they got Juju Smith-Schuster out, and while Kadarius Toney likely steps in, I don't trust him or Marquez Valdes-Scantling to really have a big game. The Chargers actually have done a good job defending Travis Kelce in their career. When Derwin James, their safety, is active, he should be active and ready to go as long as he's healthy the whole game, which he's had some games where he plays the first half, gets injured, and that's when we see Travis Kelce take off. I think a guy like Jerick McKinnon's going to be open a lot. I think they're going to dink and dunk to him. I mean, this is a Chiefs offense. I want a pass catcher with a guy like Patrick Mahomes. We know he could throw up 50 times any given night. His passing yards line is going to sit at over 300. All we need is 26 for a guy like Jerick McKinnon, who could see 5, 6, 7 receptions for all I know. You look at last week's, Christian McCaffrey had 39 receiving yards versus this Chargers defense. The week prior to that, Tyler Algier of the Falcons had 1 reception, but took it for 24 yards. Now, McKinnon, we don't need him to take 1 catch and go for 28 yards or whatever we need to get us over. He should see 3, 4, 5 receptions. I think that's certainly capable of getting it done. Chargers have a decent pass rush as well. We know they're obviously going to probably try to spy Patrick Mahomes because he normally gets some good rushing yards against him. So I really like Jerick McKinnon. Get some dump offs, just have some routes that he's going to beat the linebackers. Taking his over 25.5 receiving yards. Let's keep this moving to an anytime touchdown score. We've had a lot of success on these this season. This week we're going with Josh Jacobs of the Las Vegas Raiders, taking his anytime touchdown plus 115 on PointsBet as they're in Denver, Colorado, taking on the Denver Broncos. Now, the Broncos, credit where credit's due, great defense. Despite their offense stinks, but their defense is great, and they don't allow a ton of points per game. But all we need is one. All we need is one touchdown out of Josh Jacobs, and I certainly think he can get that done. Now, look, Josh Jacobs, he can catch a touchdown. While it's not necessarily his recipe for victory here, he can still catch one, even if they do get down. But I expect more of it to be a rushing touchdown. And Jacobs has a rushing touchdown in 4 of his last 6 games, including 1 last week. Now, Jacobs did not score a touchdown in the 2 weeks prior to last week, but he got off the snide, got into the end zone against the Colts. Now, here's a weird stat for you. You might have to put on your thinking goggles and at least dive into this, because I was looking at the trends for Jacobs. He rarely goes 2 games. Well, just look at this. Over his last 25 games, his streaks where he just doesn't have a touchdown and then he has a touchdown, he rarely goes back to not having a touchdown. You look at his last 25, he had 2 straight games with a touchdown, then he had no touchdown the next week. 3 straight with a touchdown, then 3 straight with no touchdown. You see the streaks. I mean, he rarely goes a touchdown and then no touchdown the next week unless it's like a 2 or 3 game streak with a touchdown. I don't know. I'm not going to dive into that trend. Really why I'm here is that Josh Jacobs has owned the Denver Broncos in his career. 6 games versus Denver, 2+ touchdowns. We only need 1. 2+ touchdowns in 4 of 6. A touchdown in 5 of those 6 games. So if you want to go for 2+, go for it. He already had 2 touchdowns versus the Broncos earlier this year. I think you're getting plus 115 value. I know the Broncos haven't allowed a ton of rushing touchdowns this year and a ton of points in general, but their offense still stinks. And this should be a guy that Josh Jacobs is going to see the lion's share of the work for this Raiders backfield. Raiders need to start winning some games, although they probably aren't going to make the playoffs. Would be nice for a guy like Derek Carr, guys like we don't know what the Raiders are a couple more losses away from blowing up this team and Derek Carr getting released. I saw some report of that on Twitter, and I don't know if they want to do that. I think Derek Carr steps up. I think his offense plays well. All we need is Josh Jacobs to go score 1 touchdown. I think he's capable. Plus 115. Now, everyone, what you all been waiting for. Grab your ladders like I told you to. Get them out, because we're taking this ladder play, and hopefully you guys can understand exactly how I'm playing this, because it's for a guy by the name of Kyle Pitts. Now, I know if you have him in fantasy football, you're probably not happy with what he's done this year, but I like him this week as they take on the Chicago Bears. Now, I'm putting up on the screen exactly how I'm going to play this ladder. Now, you could put a one unit on his regular over 36.5 receiving yards. Go for it. You could put, total, we have 1.5 units on a guy like Kyle Pitts. You see, I got 0.75 units. So if you're a $100 normal unit better, you put $75 on Mr. Kyle Pitts over regular over 36.5. You put another $50 or half a unit on 50+ receiving yards at plus 178. Another quarter unit, 0.25 on 60+, 0.15 units on 70+, and then 0.10 units on 80+ receiving yards at plus 640. If Kyle Pitts gets 80+ receiving yards, we have bet 1.5 units. We'll bring back over 3.5 units of profit plus the 1.5 we already bet. Now, look, now the question is, after I've already explained this and probably talked about Kyle Pitts for 35 seconds, why do we like Kyle Pitts? And here's why. Now, Pitts, he's up and down this year. No sugarcoating that, but he does have 80+ receiving yards in 2 games this year. And what he hits is over, he crushes his over. This is very rarely a guy that just goes, I'm going to get 37 receiving yards. It just barely hit your over. No, he normally crushes it. And you look at Pitts over the last 3 weeks, I think some regression is due. Last 3 weeks, 9, 7, and 8 targets. Seeing the target volume, the problem is Marcus Mariota can't hit him. Now, if he does, now that's asking Marcus Mariota to complete a pass is a big if. But over the last 2 games, 4 receptions combined, 15 targets total. So I think he's just due some regression eventually, and it could come against this Bears defense, who's just not been very good this year. He has a 57.4 catchable target rate. Catchable target rate. Yeah, that's not great. You don't love that. But still, Pitts is the guy that averages 82.2 air yards per game. They're targeting him deep. All he has to do is complete 1, and we're going to cash several legs of this ladder. And we look at a Bears defense. Hasn't faced a ton of elite tight ends. The last one they faced, Dalton Schultz, he had 74 receiving yards and like 6 receptions against them. And you look at Kyle Pitts over receptions. If you just want to take his receptions line, you're sitting at 3.5, minus 110 each way. Kyle Pitts has only had 4 receptions in 2 of 9 games this year. If he even gets 3 or 4 receptions, I think we have a very good chance of hitting this one. He's commanding a 27% target share. All we need is Marcus Mariota to throw him a catchable pass. I know that's a big if, but if Marcus Mariota has practiced a little bit with him, I think they connect on some passes, which is a guy like Kyle Pitts who can make a couple guys miss. This is one of the most dynamic, athletic tight ends the NFL has to offer. He's seeing a lot of targets. I just hope he completes a couple of them this week. I don't mind his over and longest reception, which is 17.5. But look, I'm climbing the ladder with Mr. Kyle Pitts. I think he gets maybe, hopefully, at least over 50 plus. But if he can get 60, 70, or 80, we're going to have a big day with Mr. Kyle Pitts. Putting 1.5 units on his ladder. Really trust it. We'll recap. We'll see how we'll track it as just a one bet, but hopefully he cashes a couple of these legs and gets it done. If he lays an egg, then oh well, it's Kyle Pitts. You never really know with him. Now, of course, let's keep it moving. Those are my 4 player props today. The Moneyline Parlay time. Everyone loves it. Last week we got off the snide with the plus 727 bomb. Let's try to duplicate that success. 4 teams, 4 legs. Eagles, Patriots, Raiders, and Cowboys. Plus 743 on FanDuel. The odds of us hitting 2 straight Moneyline Parlays, let's be honest, very unlikely, but we'll take a stab at it. Let me talk about why I like these. Eagles versus Colts. Eagles, I don't see them losing 2 straight. The Colts, while they do play better as underdogs, I don't know if the Jeff Saturday experiment continues to work. Hey, I'd allow it if the Eagles do end up going out there and losing, but they're 7-point favorites. I think they get that done. Now, for my Week 11 best bets video, I did talk about the Patriots-Jets. I'll give you a spoiler. I like the Patriots to cover. They've just owned the Jets, and while I have the Jets pennant behind me, I have a Jets shirt under here. I got to cover it up for the video because I'm picking the Patriots. I just think they beat the Jets. The Patriots need this game much more than the Jets do. It's just a game where the Patriots, they lose this one, they got no chance of winning the division, and it's going to be tough for them to make the playoffs. Now, the Raiders, look, I ain't betting on the Broncos. You got the wrong guy. I don't care if the Broncos are favored by 10 points against any team. I'd rather trust the Raiders, team that already beat them once this year. They're in Denver, and the Broncos just keep going down. They're losing guys. Jerry Jeudy's probably out. This team just stinks, and I'm not betting money on them. I'd rather take the value with the Raiders. And the final one is Cowboys. One of my spread picks in the video is in this game, and I'll let you know it's probably the Cowboys as it's to pick them. I know a lot of people aren't going to like it, but I think the Cowboys do get it done on the road in Minnesota. A lot of people are going to be riding with the Vikings. I think the Cowboys have the recipe for success to take down a Minnesota Vikings team. Just double Justin Jefferson, say, you know what, KJ Osborne, go beat me. Oh, yeah, Adam Thielen, go beat me too. And I just don't know if those guys are capable. They have a great pass rush. I think they can get to Kirk Cousins, make life difficult on him. And plus, it's a Moneyline Parlay. Need some value in there, plus 743. If we can hit 2 in a row, that would be electric. I appreciate you guys for tuning into the video. Our Week 11 Best Bets video is on the screen. Go click it. Go check it out. You see my 3 favorite spread picks plus 2 extra leans. The leans are 8-0 over the past 4 weeks. It's been a ridiculous run. I love you guys. Appreciate all your support. If you ever want to sign up for any sports books, all the links are down below in the description. I'll see you guys back again in the other videos. See you guys then. Peace out.